everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Today's the Day Changemakers Podcast. I am Jody Grinwald. This week, my guest is Jes Ruzic, certified personal stylist and image consultant, who has been helping women discover their styles for nearly a decade. She has styled Covergirl Models at New York Fashion Week runway shows, dressed keynote speakers, revitalized wardrobes, and so much more. Jes provides color analysis and also helps you to evaluate the clothing you have in your closet for relevancy. She will also help you find the things you may be looking for to complete your wardrobe. We need to be connected to what we put on our bodies, as those items bring out a feeling from within us. Jes has a true commitment to sustainability and a passion for textile recycling. Textile dye, if not recycled correctly, harms our environment. Jes is partnering with large organizations to help with this and goes out to speak on the importance of sustainability in the fashion industry. Please subscribe to the Today's the Day Changemakers YouTube channel. Download the podcast from most streaming sites. Don't forget to like and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Today is the Day Live It. Also, to learn more about Today is the Day's overall programming, International Annual Forum, the upcoming Changemakers Connective, business coaching and consulting, go to todayisthedayliveit.com. The views expressed by all Today's the Day Changemakers podcast guests are their own. Their appearance on the Today's the Day Changemakers podcast does not imply any endorsement of them or any entity that they represent. Thank you and have a fabulous week, everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Today's the Day Changemakers Podcast. I am Jody Grinwald, and as I say every single week, I get to interview the changemakers, inspirers, and those who are disrupting the status quo in the best way possible. And today I have Jes Ruzic. Hi, Jes. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing great. Thanks. Great to be here.
I'm so happy you're here, and we've been wanting to do this. I'm excited about this topic because I feel like there's so much here that people don't know. So I'm going to get started with your bio, and then we're going to get into a great conversation. So Jes is a certified personal stylist, and she helps women discover their styles. She's been helping women for nearly a decade discover their styles. She started her career at Nordstrom and received her formal training from the New York Institute of Art and Design, where she earned her certification in personal styling and image consulting. She has styled Covergirl Models at NYFW runway shows, dressed keynote speakers, revitalized wardrobes, and more. Her commitment to sustainability and passion for textile recycling has led her to partner with organizations such as Dress for Success, Souls for Souls, and H&M. She speaks on the importance of sustainability, which we're going to talk about in the fashion industry, to organizations. Jes founded the Big Thinkers Group to promote networking with intention and accountability during the COVID-19 period of confinement. This tight-knit unit helps each other find new ways to grow their businesses and make new and meaningful professional and community connections. And you can contact Jes at jesruzic.com, just so we get started with where they can find you, Jes. All right. Wow. Great stuff. Really
Good.
Great stuff.
That was a great read.
We say, how does it feel to hear it back?
It's exciting. Actually, it sounds much better than when I just write it, because I feel like it's boring. But when I hear it, I'm like, that sounds good.
No, I always love doing it because I feel like everybody says that. And sometimes when mine is read, I feel the same way. So you know what people don't realize, and we're going to get into more of what I'm going to say in a minute, but people don't realize what they wear and how it makes them feel, and how, what it really means when they go shopping, and knowing their colors. And we're going to go through all of that. But before we get to that, which you have taught me a lot, so much just from meeting for lunch and things like that, I wanted to just start with you before all of this, and where you grew up, and what you went to school, and what you thought you were going to be when you were going to grow up.
So I grew up actually all over the globe. My family, my father worked for a large company for over 33 years. And basically we moved all over from upstate New York. We lived in Italy, England. Then we came back to the States. We lived in Chicago, Denver, and then they settled in upstate New York when I went to high school. So when I was in high school, I was a mall rat. Like, I worked at Benetton. I worked at County Seat. If you can remember any of those, my folding skills are amazing. Like, I could fold so good. But I really was interested in fashion and all that when I was when I finally came to the States and I was 14. And working at the mall was like my dream. And then I went to college. I went to University of Maryland and I graduated from there. And I ended up here in New Jersey, which I never thought in a million years that I would ever end up in New Jersey. I'd never even been to New Jersey. And I've been here now for 28 years. So and I've lived in my same house for 18. So for somebody who moved all over, it feels really comforting to know that I have like the stability of home, and my kids have, the stability here. So I loved growing up all over, but it's been really nice to have the roots here. So yeah, that's my history of my schooling.
And then what did you want to be when you were a little girl? Did you have a thought? Did you definitely want to always be in fashion? I know you worked in those stores, but when you were a little girl before you started working, did you have any thoughts?
I have to tell you that when I was a little girl and I was living in Europe, there was a completely different set of goals than I think when you're here in America. I think when you're here in America, you are really sort of programmed to follow a track, to be told when you're younger, oh, you play with Barbies, you must like fashion, or you must, or if you like a gentleman and you're tinkering with mechanics, oh, you want to be, a car person. Really in Europe at the time, it was more about like just surviving. It was really more about, just because we kept on moving from one place to another and being the new person, it was more of just that survival mode of like, okay, now I'm in this new place. How do I adjust to the language, the culture? Our housing situation was different every couple of years. So I would have to say that it was only when I moved to upstate New York, when I was living in Ithaca, that I worked at the mall and I really felt this connection to fashion. And that's really where it all started, if I think about it, because I was that girl in high school that was like totally dressed up. I mean, I was so over when I look at how I was dressed versus how kids go to school today. I was like looking like I was going for a job interview. I was the heels, the dress, the whole thing. And I felt great, and I think maybe that's what helped me gain a lot of confidence, having moved. And you start a new school and you're in 9th grade and you're feeling like, wow, I don't know how to fit in. I really sort of tuned into myself and said, you know what, this makes me feel good and I'm going to go with it. So I used to get up at like 5:30 in the morning, do my makeup, do my hair. Yeah.
Well, that's great. And you mentioned some stores that I forgot all about, Benetton and County Seat. I'm like, oh my goodness, it's another lifetime ago for sure.
Right.
So you went to college, and what happened after college?
So after college, I actually met my first husband when I was on spring break, my senior year of college. And while he was a lovely gentleman and we had a baby together, our relationship was just not a good match. So we had a very quick, I got married I graduated at 22. Actually, I got married at 22. I had a baby at 25. And then by the time I was 28, we were sort of like, okay, that was a really big whirlwind of things, but we sort of parted ways. And then I worked in New York City for a long time, all the way up until 9/11. And then once 9/11 happened, that really was another game changer for me. I feel like I've reinvented myself so many times over the years that I think about commuting into the city and being that person who's sitting on the train at 7 a.m. and my kid was the first one dropped off at daycare and the last one picked up. And, to think that that was my life back then is sort of like, wow, I can't believe that I did that. And then 9/11 happened and it really was an eye opener for me. I ended up stopping working in New York completely. And I got into health and fitness. I got certified as a personal trainer. I taught yoga classes. I really just felt like my health was so important and my relationship with my son was so important. So really sort of reconnected with him. And then I got remarried. I met a wonderful guy who I'm with now. We have 3 kids together and life is great. I'm so happy. I can't even believe that I get to do what I do as a job.
I love it. But I want to go back. What did you do in New York? Because you worked there for many years. So what was your role?
I was in advertising. So I started advertising as soon as I got done with college because my major was English. And so I started in with really sort of a writing background. So I got into advertising that way. And then I was in sales. So I was selling advertising space, and my territory was all downtown. So I had Windows on the World, I had the Twin Towers, I had all of those buildings, and those clients were all my clients. So that was all of my assignments were downtown. So, and the irony, really, I have to be honest, and not to sound, to bring up the worst of the worst, but the irony of it all is that I had been downtown almost every day. Like I would go into the office, I'd check my people, and then I'd say, okay, I'm going to see my clients, and I'd go downtown. And it was just crazy that 9/11 was on a Tuesday on that, in 2001, it fell on a Tuesday. And I normally would take Mondays off and Fridays off. So Mondays and Fridays I worked from home, which back then was like a completely foreign thing. So I would go in Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, because I kind of negotiated that after I'd been there for a while, and it was like really hard to commute that far. And I happened to have I just switched my dates. And so I was home on a Tuesday and not on a Monday. So on that particular week, I went into work on a Monday and I stayed home on that Tuesday. And what's so scary to me is that it's such a small thing, but I realized how huge it was. And at the moment, it was so life-changing. It was such a wake up moment, and such a tragedy. I lost a lot of people that I knew. The town that I lived in I lived in Middletown at the time, and they had just lost so many people. And, we got reconnected to the church, and, there's a lot of things like, I have goosebumps, and, 9/11 was like a really big turning point for me. So that's what I did. And then I got into health and fitness, and then I got into pharmaceuticals. So I started selling pharmaceuticals. So that was sort of an easy transition for me, because I knew the health and science background. And so I sold pharmaceuticals for a while, and then I got pregnant with my second one, and then I stayed home, and I got pregnant with my third one, and I stayed home, and I got pregnant with my fourth one, and I was home. So I really dipped my toe sort of back into just the working world. I took up a part-time job. It was a seasonal position, working the worst hours possible for Black Friday and all that. And it was at the Coach outlet. And they had, Jody, when I tell you that their hours were like 6 a.m. to midnight. And if you were a seasonal worker, that was what you were working. So I worked the worst possible shifts ever. And I crushed it. I crushed every single, they had all sorts of sales goals and contests and things like that. I have more Coach bags than you can ever imagine. So I won so many things. And then I got recruited to Nordstrom from the Coach outlet. One of the women who was my manager, knew a manager over at the shoe department at Nordstrom. So, and at Nordstrom, you get paid on commission. So it was a really, really nice transition for me, because financially it was a really big difference, especially since I was so good at sales, because I had been selling for so long. I sold advertising, I sold pharmaceuticals, and now I was just selling shoes.
Right.
So and I loved it. I loved it so much. I woke up in the morning and I was like, I can't wait to go to work. And I loved it. And then I grew very tired of the hours, because, it's a lot to go, Black Friday and Christmas Eve. And I have 4 kids at home, and everybody's waiting for me. And I'm like, I got to go. Yeah. So that part was really hard. And I think that's what really sort of projected me to think about what I'm doing on my own, and to take ownership of my own marketing, my own advertising, my own brand, my own customer service, all that. So it felt really good to take care of me.
So we'll get into all and what you're doing now in a moment.
But that was too much. That was a big dump, wasn't it?
No, it's good. It's good, because what I want people to hear, for those who are listening too, I just want to tie this with a bow a little bit, is that all the things and all the pit stops along the way were to get you ready, right? Because you learned so much from each one, it sounds like, right? To get you ready for where you are now. And a lot of times we don't realize why those things are happening. And we're like, wait, I feel like I'm off the beaten path, because selling pharmaceuticals was not, it was interesting, right? Because you went from advertising to then health and fitness, to then selling pharmaceuticals, and now to fashion. And so it's every pit stop along the way and along our journey. But when we're in it and we're not looking at it from a 360-degree view, we sometimes think like, what's going on? What am I doing? Or, why am I doing this? So for those who are listening, if you're in that space, know that God, universe, whoever you believe in, whatever you believe, you're on this journey for a reason. So, so just stay focused and present. But so just tell us, because I know you've worked Fashion Week. I know you're doing so many things, and you're helping women to really connect to their wardrobe. And I didn't realize how important that was. And there's so much to uncover with that. So tell everybody what you're doing now.
So right now I offer two sides of my business. There's first the personal styling side, and then there's runway styling side, which we'll table for a second. But as far as the everyday woman, a lot of times what women have done up until this point is we've accumulated so much in our closet, almost as if it's some sort of a treasure trove, right? Like we put all of our special things in there. And we get to the point where now we open it up and we can't even make a decision because it's so packed with everything, and everything has a memory, and everything is all, there's jeans in there that you're like, oh, I'm going to fit into those jeans. And so when we walk into our closets, there's so much emotion that hits us. Sometimes we feel discouraged because we're not at our, ultimate weight, or where, we feel, bored is another huge one. I get women who are just completely bored with how they look, what they have, and they're just like, I just don't want to I can't even make a choice. I'm so bored. So there's a lot of emotions that come into that. And then there's a lot of emotions that happen once you do get dressed, and once you do start to feel good about yourself, regardless of where you're at with your fitness goals, you can certainly feel really good about yourself, even if you're not exactly where you want to be. And I think that's part of the process, is getting women to accept where they are, love who they are, and to eliminate those clothes that are filled with bad emotions. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So we have our old boyfriend's leather jacket, or we have our father who's passed away, his favorite pair of jeans. Like, we have so much stuff in our closets. So one of the things I do when I first go in is I do a color analysis and a body shape analysis. So once I know what your color is, it's so easy to go into your closet and do a big sweep of all the ones that I know this is not your color. So let's just get rid of it to begin with. I don't care if it looks great on you. It's not your color. So let's get rid of it. Then we kind of go through each and every piece, and we say, okay, what about this one? This one has holes. This one has rips. This one has a stain. This one has a little pull in it. Can we fix it? Can we mend it? Can we alter it? Or is it really like trash? And then we move into the next pile. This one's a great one, but I'm not really sure how to mix it in, with other things in my closet. Great. That goes in one pile. We'll work on that later. So basically go in and evaluate every single piece for relevancy. Does it fit you? Does it make you feel good? And everything else it doesn't make you feel good, or it doesn't fit, or isn't relevant to be in your closet, gets eliminated. And when you have that sense of extra space, and you're working with only the very best of the best in your closet, it's funny. I carry this little menu around for me, and it reminds me that one of the best restaurants that I ever went to has had the smallest menu, right? And why is that? Because they keep the very best things in their kitchen, the stuff that's the freshest. And that's what I want a closet to be. I want it to have the very best ingredients so that you can easily mix and match and somewhat cook in your closet and create these things, and know that no matter what combination you put together, it's going to be perfect. And so you eliminate that doubt.
I love that. So where did the expertise come from?
So I started at shoes, then I got promoted, then I got promoted, then I got promoted. And I was a personal stylist at Nordstrom. And it's sort of like the most coveted, I don't want to sound all that in a bag of chips, but it is a very coveted position. They really only have like 2 or 3 in the store. You're able to move throughout the entire store. You're not just stuck to one department. Your commission rate goes up. So there's a lot of things that go into getting that position and maintaining that position, because you have a certain sales goal that you have to stay up against too. So I really was loving my job, and my customers were loving me, and they would come to me and say, "Oh my gosh, Jess, if you could come into my closet, can you come to my house? Would you please come to my house? Because we just bought this blouse and there's these pair of pants that I want to show you." And so sometimes we'd get into like a texting thing where they take a text of it and they'd show me. And I went to my boss and I said, "You know what? My clients are asking me to come to their house. Like, what do we do about this? Like, can I go there?" Like, and he's like, "Absolutely not." He's like, "You get bit by a dog or you slip on the ice, or how do I even compensate you if you tell me you're going there? What do I pay you? Because this is a commission base." So there was so many factors. Even though he supported me in the idea, he was like, "We just can't do that." So I said, "Oh my gosh, thank you." And it was literally that night I went home to my husband and I was like, "I'm starting my own personal styling business, because I can do what I'm doing at Nordstrom and I can go in people's closets and I can take care of my own dog bite or ice slip." So I decided at that point that I was going to go be the best possible stylist I could, because anybody can call themselves a stylist. Really, to be honest with you, you can go to J. Crew and they go, "Hi, how are you? I'm a stylist." And you're like, "Oh, wow." But they just call themselves that. So I wanted to be the best that I could be. So I went back to school at, 48. And I studied at the New York Institute of Art and Design. And what I did was I wanted to be in a program that was really sophisticated. There's a lot of style schools out there, but I wanted one that had like credentials. And it's the only program that's backed by the New York State Board of Education, which is huge, huge. That means there's somebody who's actually following the curriculum and making sure that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. So it was a 2-year, very immersive program. And I loved it. It was like, I aced everything. I thought it was just so easy. And then I launched my business and I did my website, and then you get into Instagram and Reels, and now here we are. So that's sort of the personal styling side of it. And then runway is, New York Fashion Week, it's pageants, it's things like that. And really that's working backstage. So you're back of house, and I'm literally the last person that the model sees before they walk out onto the runway. So I'm fluffing the dress. I'm making sure everything is laying just right. Go. And they actually call that person the pusher.
Oh, really?
The first time I heard that, somebody was like, "Are you going to push her?" And I was like, "No, why would I do that?" So that's called the pusher. So that's a funny little factoid.
So how do you get called to do runway? I mean, that's pretty amazing. I did see some of your things on Instagram. By the way, before we move forward on that, what is your Instagram that people can follow you on?
I'm Jes Ruzic Stylist. So it's 1S, JESRUZIC STYLIST, Jes Ruzic Stylist. So what was the question? Oh, how do I get? Yes. So it takes a long time. We're talking the first time that I went to New York Fashion Week, I bought a ticket. The second time I volunteered and I was like the person who checked people in. The third time I volunteered again. So Fashion Week happens twice a year. It happens in September and then it happens in February. So the most exciting one that happened was when I really sort of broke the mold. I worked the only live Fashion Week during COVID. So it was really, really crazy because they had people in the audience, but they were 6 feet apart. So instead of having like a huge media pit and a bunch of people standing, sandwiched in this little space, they were spread out so far. And it was just very weird. Everybody was masked but we did it and we pulled it off and it was awesome. And then pretty much after that, I had solidified my role as a doer. And and so actually this fashion week was really fun. I got to work 4 shows. And the first show was an emerging designer. So this was the first time she had ever been on the red carpet. We worked with, she had, issues with little stitching and things like that. So we fixed everything. So it was all ready to go. So I worked with an emerging designer. I worked, are you familiar with like the Comic-Con and all of that? So yeah, there was one of those. So I worked with a guy who was like an Ant-Man and he had this huge costume. And so I was backstage. So he went out in his big, it's just like grown men and they're dressed in these costumes. They're so into it. They're like, yes, I'm Thor. You're like, wow, I can't believe you're acting like this. They're so into it. And their costumes are like incredible. And that they've done this by hand. You're so blown away.
Wow.
But it was, so I worked that and it was with the guys, I had to make sure that all their costumes were working just right. We had a slip up this time. This man had a huge piece that came in over his head and at the last minute it broke. And I was like, oh, I have a zip tie. I had a zip tie in my kit and I got a zip tie and he was, we're talking, this was 30 seconds before he's supposed to go out. The thing broke.
Oh, my
and
God.
we're talking, these guys are taking years of working on these projects. This isn't fashion week. You just throw a model in a size 7 or size 6 dress and, she moves on. It's, these people are really they've really spent a lot of time on these things. So he was so grateful. Oh my gosh. He was like, I could never have done this without you. And so anyway, so that was the other one I got to work. Adore Me was great because that was all lingerie and I had never done. And I thought, okay, well, how do I style this lingerie? And you wouldn't believe I was like right up doing the garter belt, of a girl. I was like right up in her.
Oh my goodness.
I was like way up in there and she's like on her phone, you know what I mean? So she's on her phone. She's just standing there. And I literally am like in her junk, pulling the thing up. I'm using double-sided tape right in the back of her butt, so it's stuff you can't even make it up. You can't make it up. It happens. It's crazy. It's fun. And I love it. So that's how you get to work Fashion Week. You just sort of make a name for yourself and you say, I'm so versatile. I can work anything from being women half naked to men in crazy costumes. And
I love it. I love it. So everybody who's listening can really see how flexible you are, the spectrum of work that you do, which is really great.
Pam10 is a leader in IT enterprise solutions and staffing. They are driven to transform their clients' business performances. They do this every day by providing their clients with the best services and products like BizLego, an online community platform, and Colear, a unique learning management system. They also transform the lives of women and children through their associated nonprofits, SheTech, which supports women in and joining the technology field, and Softkin, support organization for kids in need. Pam10, technology for social good. Go to pam10.com for more information.
Let's talk about the sustainability piece, which I think is really, I know you're very passionate about this, and I want to hear more about this. And you've been working with, I know H&M was on that list on the sustainability piece.
So the sustainability just sort of came as like an aha moment. As I was telling you, I was going into these women's closets and I started taking things out and really sort of evaluating. And once they said, no, I don't want that, and that I'm going to give away, and I took everything back to my house. And so like, I've got piles and piles of clothes back in my house. And I'm thinking like, okay, well, what am I going to do with all this stuff? So I really had to educate myself about the best way to channel these things. One of them is I partner locally with my own community, my church, my own food pantry, things that are really close to home. So that's the first place. And then I go a little bit further out. So H&M is fantastic. One of the reasons why I really like H&M is they make the textile recycling super easy. you can take, so for example, you have old underwear, right? We all have ratty old underwear. We have maybe old t-shirts or old workout clothes that are now stretched out. And you're like, I'm never going to wear this, right? So guilty of in the past, just being like, throw it in the trash, throw it in your garbage. Now having learned what happens to that stuff that we throw in the garbage, really sort of was an eye opener. So H&M is wonderful because they take those textiles that you don't want in a bin at the store, at the checkout, and they give you this little, and I'm going to show you, I happen to have it right here. They give you a little coupon. So you stand in line and at the checkout and you give them just a little, a little bag, because it's not a huge bin that you just have a few things, a little bin, and they'll give you a 15% off your entire next purchase. So say you need some staples, you need some white t-shirts and just some staple pieces, essentials. You can basically drop off your old underwear, get a 15% off coupon, turn around and buy the essentials that you need and use the coupon. So to me, that's a great way for us. It's such a small step, and it's so easy, right? It's just a small little ShopRite bag full of your old underwear or old things that you don't want anymore. Now, for the larger things, when you really have like big things, there are companies like Helpsy. So what Helpsy does, and here's an incredible statistic, is that textile dyeing is the second largest polluter of water globally. So of all the water that we have in the world, right? Textile recycling is the second biggest polluter. Think about that. More than plastic, more than everything else. So what Helpsy does is they actually remove the dye. So they sort everything by color. They remove the dye, they repurpose that dye, and then they're able to shred the textiles, create thread that creates new clothes. So that's like mind-blowing, right? You're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that was even a thing. And what Helpsy does, they make it so easy. You can go onto their website, you type in your zip code, and they'll come to your house and pick it up. Or they'll tell you where there's a bin. Now, we're all guilty too of driving up to the local grocery store and being like, oh, there's a bin. We just stuff our stuff in there, not thinking of, is that bin being empty? Is it moldy? And once somebody goes in there and takes it out, what are they going to do with it? And the sad thing is 90% of what we give to organizations like Goodwill end up in a landfill, whether it's here in the US or overseas. 90%. And we think we're doing the right thing. And again, I'm passionate about it because I didn't know about it. And now that I know about it, I'm like, let me just tell everyone. When we drive past a Goodwill, it is so overloaded with merchandise. Like it's just tons of stuff. And there might be like one person who's working the register, right? And she's like, yeah, come on in. I'll give you your receipt. We think we're doing the right thing, but we're really just now contributing to the landfill. Take the time to learn about organizations like Dress for Success. How about old shoes? How many pairs of old shoes do we have? And we're like, I have no idea what to do with these. Right. And we really don't even want to throw them out. Right. Because we're like, they're shoes. They're, for some reason we have a connection with our shoes. But there's a company, as an organization, nonprofit called Souls for Souls. And it's literally one of my favorite ones. And I'll tell you what they do is they'll take your old shoes and they'll either refurbish them or recycle them. So in third world countries like Guatemala, they'll take you, they partner with those countries, they take the shoes and they create jobs. So these little people in Guatemala have a shoe store. And in the back, they have somebody who's refurbishing your old shoes. And in the front, they have somebody who's selling your shoes that have been either refurbished, or if you donate them and they're in good condition, they're sellable right there. So we're creating jobs, we're creating financial freedom for people who would not normally have it. And we're sitting there with shoes in our closet right now that we're like, I don't know what I'm going to do with these. I'm never going to wear them. And it's like, there's people out there who could really do something with this. So that's why I get passionate about sustainability, mostly because it's the educational piece. It's like, let me tell you the stories. the statistics, and they're shocking.
They are shocking. Like I said, you're teaching me things, and we don't realize these are things that we do not. Most of the time I'm driving around in my trunk with a bag of something I want to donate, and it just sits there for months because I'm looking for somewhere to donate it to, or a box or something. And I'm so glad that now, you've given us an outlet, a Help See and Soul for Souls. Definitely something I'm personally going to be looking into. I also want to talk about when we first met and we had lunch. We had a whole conversation about undergarments, and women, listen up, because this was something that I thought, first of all, let's just face it. There's an outfit in our closet that when we put it on, it makes us feel incredible. It may not be every outfit. And as Jess says, it should be every outfit, right? Because if we're doing it right, it should be every outfit. But the undergarment conversation that we had, I thought was really interesting. And it actually made me reevaluate. And I know it sounds so personal to talk about, but women, listen up to this. So go ahead, Jess.
So there is something, and I learned about this too. It's called Enclothed Cognition. And Enclothed Cognition is an actual thing that happens in the brain, that as you start from the bottom with the right undergarments, you actually start to exude your confidence from the inside out. And what does that mean? So we've got a big meeting. We're ready to give a big pitch. We're going to a conference, or we're giving a keynote a talk. We want to have the best outfit on. And so many of us will get out of the shower, and we'll walk over and we'll open up our drawer, and we put on the oldest, rattiest underwear that we have, because we don't put buying underwear on a priority. We wait and wait and wait. And then we'll say, you know what? I did buy good underwear, and I'm going to stuff it in the back of the drawer, and I'm going to wait until I really get to the bottom of my current underwear. And it just doesn't make any sense to me. It just doesn't make any sense to me, because why would you put something old and ratty and tatty and stained and stretched out? Why would you put that as your first thing, as your first layer of confidence? And that's what I call it, your first layer of confidence. And, once you step into that, and, you look at yourself in the mirror, and you're like, okay, well, you would be shocked at the difference that you feel when you spend $7 or $8 on a new pair of underwear. Go to Jockey. There's so many sales that are constantly happening for buying underwear. I don't know why women don't do it more often. I don't know how stores like lingerie stores can actually stay in business, because I don't think women buy enough of it. And I like the matching sets. I think having a set together it's that another layer of confidence that says, you know what? I'm good, top to bottom, inside and out. So
I love that. And it's funny, because you're right. The reevaluation, it depends where you are within your life, but it was just a very interesting conversation. The other thing I want to ask you is about the black is all over my closet. Most women talk about that. And so I wanted to ask you, and you and I had a conversation about that. So tell women a little bit more about that conversation, and why black should not be everybody's color or shade.
Well, black is actually not a color. It's something that we add two colors to create different shades. So one of the things that I learned when I was doing my studies is color is so important for both how you feel and how other people perceive you. So you'll notice that today I'm wearing sort of this royal, rich purple color, and that is to exude a sense of trust, that people will feel comfortable and they'll trust what I'm saying. So there's thought that went into what I'm wearing and who I'm talking to and who's my audience. But more so than that, black doesn't necessarily, it doesn't give an emotion, not inside, not outside. On the inside, you think, okay, well, it's black, it's easy, that's it. And I'm done. And it's check, I'm wearing something. I'm good. It doesn't say anything when I see somebody wearing black. I think, okay, well, But if I saw somebody wearing yellow, I would think, oh my gosh, they're so happy all the time. They must be like something really exciting to, share with me. Or if I see somebody wearing blue, I'll go, oh, wow, I feel like really calm when I'm around that person. Or, they really seem to give off some sort of like a grounding feeling, So there's certain feelings, and you'll notice them now that I'm telling you about it.
Mhm.
As you start to see other people, you'll be like, oh, she's wearing that color because. And a lot of it too comes when I was telling you about the closet cleanouts and doing a color analysis, is that every woman falls on one of two sides of the color wheel. You're either hot or you're cold. So, you have to have that evaluation and then find out which ones are the best colors for you, for your skin type. It'll make you look more youthful. It will have your chin come forward. There's a lot of things, but black is flat.
Yeah. I need to reevaluate. When you did my color, I think I came out more of the gold, right? So which I have not one thing in my closet that is anything even in that shade. So it is a total reevaluation that needs to happen in my
And the thing
color
about
wheel.
it, so now let's talk about, okay, we've heard this conversation. We're motivated now to clean out our closet, and we feel this sense of like two things happen. One, I'm not gonna have anything to wear if I clean out my closet. Everything will be gone. That's always my first, the first reason why people don't want to work with a stylist. They're like, oh, you're gonna take everything away. And then, really the second thing is the process of going shopping. People find that to be very overwhelming and very daunting. And they think the mall is so big and I don't know where to go and I don't know where to start. And you know what it is? You start with a list. You start with a list and you put in, I need black flats. I need a white button down shirt. I need some neutrals, for soothing colors and neutrals. So you can create that list, and I call it shopping with intention. So now you go to the store and you're thinking, okay, I'm not just like blindly walking, you go to the mall or to the store, whichever one you're, with intention. And you say, these are the things I'm getting. I'm not deviating off my list. If I see something that I'm drawn to, because this will happen, if you stick to a list, but then you see something that's like, ooh, follow that emotion, follow that feeling, but avoid buying the same thing, like in the same color. So it's like two sweaters, one in blue, one in green, exactly the same type. So just get one version of the sweater that you like that speaks to you. Don't get two, don't get three. So many people are like, I bought it in black and white and red. I'm like, oh, just pick one, your favorite. So, so that's kind of like the shopping with intention, knowing when to hold them and when to fold them, when to just walk by something because you're like, but stick to the list. But again, because you're there and you're in that shopping mode, if you see something.
Right. I love that. I love shopping with intention. I don't love shopping. Believe it or not, I know a lot of women love, I don't love shopping. It's like Marshall's in certain places with my ADD. It's overwhelming to me to walk into certain stores, even H&M. Sometimes it depends which one. It's very crowded. So yeah. And online, I mean, do you push people to do online, or you prefer that they go to the store?
Well, here's the thing. I don't mind shopping online. It's not for me. I don't personally prefer it. I'm a textile person. I need to go and I need to feel it and I need to smell it. Like I need to really get all of the feels from the fabric. I want to look and see what's it made of. How do I care for it? Because I don't want to buy something that's dry clean only. I don't want to buy something that's hand washed with so I'm not that committed to washing my clothes that way. So I want to make sure that what I'm buying also fits with how I care for my clothes, right? So there's a lot of things, like I said, it's shopping with intention. It's making sure that we have exactly what we want. It's putting those very best ingredients into my closet. I don't want garbage in there. I don't want Twinkies and ding dongs and ho-hos in my, I want fresh fruit. I want leafy greens.
I love it. I love it. And it's really important to know that the way we dress really has to do with how we feel. And people don't realize that all the time. But I know for me, I'm putting on like my mission focused song about my day when I'm feeling good in my outfit. So it's very important. And I love your message. I love what you're doing. Jes, before I ask you the last question, is there anything else you want to share with the audience? And please include your website.
Okay, my website is www. I don't know if we're supposed to even say that anymore, but it's just jesruzic.com, JESRUZIC.com. So the last thing I was going to sort of piggyback on what you just said, one of the things that really struck me the most when I was a pharmaceutical sales rep was I got the time with the doctor because I was dressed the best. There might be 2 or 3 other pharmaceutical sales reps in the waiting room, waiting to see the doctor, waiting to give them a message about their drug and how it works better than another drug. And here, let me show you some clinical information. Like you get literally 90 seconds with the doctor. Like that's it. You're waiting maybe hours for just that one little, and I was always picked. Because, and you'd walk in and you'd sign up and the doctor would look and he'd go, okay, Jes, I was always the best dressed, always. Jacket, shoes covered, my toes covered, my shoulders covered, as professional as you could be. That's who the doctor wants to talk to. The doctor wants to talk to the person who looks like the expert. And that's what I want to, get across is dress like the expert, be the expert, and you'll be viewed as that.
Right. That makes perfect sense. That's awesome. Great message. Jes, the last question I'm asking everybody this year is what footprint are you creating right now that you want to leave behind?
It's without a doubt, sustainability. The message that I send to everyone, not just women, but everyone, that says we have a real problem here with our waste, with our unwanted goods. We have a real problem. And I know we all want to make a difference. Everybody wants to make a difference. We want to either donate money for a cause, or we want to, have a rescue animal. We all want to make a difference. And to me, this is the smallest way that we collectively could just make the smallest bit of difference. And I think it would push the dial. I really do. And I just think it's the education piece. It's me educating people with these are the facts. So let's try and do something about it. And it's not hard. It's just making sure that we take stock in what do we have? What do we need? And whatever we don't need, golly, man, we have so many people who could use what you don't use. So many. So that's really what again, Jody, this is something that I've learned as I've come along, as I've gone into these closets, and I've been like, oh my gosh, this is crazy how much stuff you have. So
it's a great message. Really, because we all have unwanted things that are sitting there that somebody else, what is that? Someone's trash is another person's treasure. And so let's make sure together we are able to give others some treasure. They deserve it. Yep. So Jes, thank you so much for sharing. Last time, Instagram and website.
Instagram, Jes Ruzic Stylist, JESRUZICSTYLIST. That's Instagram. And then you have my website is jesruzic.com, JESRUZIC.com. And pretty soon, I will tell you, I will be having another website that's under Jes Ruzic Speaks. So I'll be out there giving talks on sustainability, entrepreneurship, fashion, things like that. So I'm actually going to be giving a talk tomorrow at Rutgers. So I'm excited about that.
That's incredible. I really, the story is so important for people to hear. You don't have to be the same thing your entire life. You can make changes. You can reinvent yourself and do what you love. And that's what's so beautiful. You don't have to be stuck. And that's something that I'm very much want to make sure I share in these podcasts. If you're not happy, you can find your happiness in the work you do, because we spend a lot of time doing that work. So I'm so glad you're always smiling. You're awesome.
Thank you. I'm happy. I think that's the thing is I'm really in a good spot. Feels great. I'm 52 and I'm like, yay, I finally made it.
That's okay. I'm right, I'm not that far behind you. So I is feeling the same exact way.
Isn't it great? I feel so good now than I ever have in my life, just because I feel like I have so much knowledge and I have so much confidence and I have so much power. It's great. It's really great.
And I think when we get to a certain age, I'm not saying everybody, but I know that we relinquish the feeling of worrying about being judged, right? It's like we know that we have to give that away and not worry about it so much and just be who we truly are authentically. And if somebody relates, great. If they don't, they're not supposed to be in our path. And we just want to have those who are supposed to be part of our journey. And I think the work you're doing is important, and people need this all, for the reason is that we want to feel good this is our avatar here, right? This is all we have.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to be able to feel good in what we wear, and it helps us mentally as well as physically. So Jes, thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And Jes will hopefully be part of our International Changemakers Forum that's going to be coming up on March 23rd, 2023 as one of our speakers. So I'm so excited about that. And I'm going to say what I say at the end of every single podcast. Today is the day. You cannot go back to yesterday, and you do not yet own tomorrow. So what small or large step are you going to take today to get yourself closer to your goal? Again, thank you to Jes Ruzic, who came here to share some incredible information about how what we put on our body matters as much as what we put in our body. So thank you so much, Jes. So appreciate it. And we'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.